You have these grifters. The worst ones are obviously the MAGA ones. That like every time Caitlin Clark is fouled now, or every time like some black WNBA player criticizes her, or, like takes a little dig at her, it's literally they send out the video and it's like WNBA black lesbians hate white people. Like that was literally a Clay Travis tweet. Like they hate white people. They want Caitlin Clark out of the league. This is reverse racism against white people. She didn't make the Olympic team because it's reverse racism against white people.
Hello, everyone. This is JVL here with my best friend, Tim Miller, and sitting in for my other best friend, Sarah Longwell, is my third best friend, the Mistress of Darkness, A.B. Stoddard. A.B., are you ready to gang up on Tim? We're going to double team Tim today, and this could be the darkest ever show.
Yeah. I think I have one ray of light that I found in my stack of papers, but there's a lot of dark.
I got to tell you guys, I am tan. I'm not rested, but I am tan. I was at beaches and weddings. I was at a discotheque. Maybe a couple discotheques. I met a person. I met an American who didn't seem to know who Kamala Harris was, which on the one hand is alarming, but on the other hand was very kind of freeing for me, just mentally, to do a week where I was like, hey, I'm with some people who are some expats who are visiting Spain who don't even know who the vice president is. So I was embracing that. And so I don't know if you guys can bring me to the dark side right now. I am in the light, even though it's raining outside, which is
personal
maybe
challenge.
Okay.
So over the weekend, Donald Trump appeared in a black church in Detroit. This church had seating for about 200 people. Kellyanne Conway went on Fox and said that 8,000 people were there. Super cool. That's fine. From the pictures, most of the attendees, the vast majority of the attendees, appeared to not be African American. But, I don't see race, so that's a blind spot for me.
It kind of looked like if you were going to a NASCAR driver's signing event. Like it was the type of crowd that you would see at a NASCAR driver's, kind of autograph signing. Like a niche NASCAR driver, one of the smaller drivers.
The pastor of the church, Lorenzo Sewell, Reverend Sewell, told MSNBC, "I remember walking down Grand River, a place that is desolate on the west side of Detroit, and walking down the street and just inviting people, saying, 'The former president is here if you want to come.' They were laughing like I was when I first approached." So that's interesting, except that we also then have a poll out simultaneously from USA Today showing Biden's support among African Americans in Pennsylvania and Michigan at 56%. In Pennsylvania, 54% in Michigan. If you strip out a bunch of the noise, you can get him a little bit higher, but Trump is at 10% there, 10% in Pennsylvania, 15% in Michigan. Then you have Kennedy and Cornel West combining for 15% in both states, and then about 13% undecided. This on top of the New York Times poll from a couple months ago showing Trump at about 23% overall with the African-American vote. And I got to say, I think this makes perfect sense. That the African-American vote, which was immune to the charms of Jack Kemp, who wanted enterprise zones and to sort of, rebuild the inner cities and capitals. If they wind up finally breaking the Democratic Party's hold on the African-American vote with Trump, that's going to be just great. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a long pause there, guys.
So, yeah, the news is not.
You guys
good.
are trying to break me, so I was going to let AB go first. I'm just sitting listening patiently.
Tim is still in a virtual discotheque, which I love. I want to be there with him so badly. Yeah, so Trump at this event is telling all these African American, the 18 of them that were in the 180 church filled with white people who just refrained from putting their MAGA hats on for the event, that Biden wrote the devastating 1994 crime bill talking about super predators. That was Biden. He walks around talking about the black vote. He's the king of the super predators. So I I know from 2020 that we should be worried that Black voters are leaving the Democratic Party, that they believe that the Democratic Party wasn't sufficiently pro-police in 2020, and they have been hard hit by inflation, and things have gotten worse. They feel that the Democratic Party has taken advantage of their support and has not delivered. And I believe, I am critical of the president and the vice president for over-promising when they had no math, no margin, no majority in the Senate and the House on voting rights and police reform, because they got the hopes of their base up when they knew they couldn't deliver, and then they didn't deliver. So I understand there's a disheartened, frustrated part of the African-American electorate that doesn't want to be taken for granted one more time. I really appreciate that. I am a little concerned, however, and I don't know how psyched they are to turn out to vote for RFK or Trump and actually go to the polls, because I don't know if they really have faith in the system and really want to vote. I'm concerned about the super predator message online. I think that the Trump campaign is very good about having these events where he pops into a Popeyes or a Panera, and then the entire customer base is African-American, and they freak out when they see him, and they're so excited, and they hug him. A lot of these things are completely choreographed, and they're bullshit, but I just think that they're shrewd about doing it because that goes viral. So I'm worried about the super predator message and that type of thing, because they're scheming on this hard. Thoughts, Tim?
I would add to this, Timothy, before you go and try to dig your way out of the hole we've dug for you. Trump's message on the super predators is that Joe Biden is too tough on crime. Never forget how tough on crime Joe Biden was. But I have a mugshot, so I'm just like you. But also, Trump is the guy who says that he wants to summarily execute drug dealers.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And
it doesn't have to be coherent.
Here's the deal.
He's going to keep their neighborhood safe, but he's also indicted by the corrupt system, and Biden is too tough on crime. None of it has to make sense.
I have more faith in African-American voters than I do in any other voting group in America. I've listened to the focus groups Sarah has done with African-American voters all year long. In every single case, they've been like the most sensible and, smartest and most engaged people she's talked with. So I don't think any of this should work. But the polls do freak me out. And if this stuff is working, then I just... Man, I can't live. I don't live in a world where I just dismiss polls and say, well, this thing doesn't make sense, so it can't be real. Maybe this is my fault. Maybe I should dismiss the polls more, Tim. You tell me. But it sure looks real to me, and I don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, I've got good news for you guys. I'm just getting down in the hole with you. You picked a great first topic for me, because I'm absolutely abjectly panicked about this. It is worth noting that Trump totally lies. It's all lies. It's incoherent and it's lies. We have the lowest unemployment rate among black people of all time. Not true, actually. That's right now under Joe Biden.
Under Joe Biden.
Things of this nature. I was talking with Will Salatin on the Daily Pod about this today. He kept bringing up that the head of Blacks for Trump is an indicted criminal, Kwame Kilpatrick, that Trump commuted his sentence. So that's the guy that he has recruited as a criminal, a crook, who is now paying Trump back for the sentence commutation. And the whole thing is just disgusting. It's corrupt. It's lying. It's mendacious. He's a gross person. And that said, the numbers are the number. It's possible the polls are wrong in this sense, that sometimes there's a certain group of people that pollsters struggle to get right, and that was in Trump's favor in 2016 with white working class people. I've talked about this on a couple other pods where Spanish-speaking Hispanics are sometimes harder to get. The Democrats have performed better than polls with Hispanics, because polls tend to get more English-speaking Hispanics, which tend to lean more Republican. So this happens. Maybe there's something happening with young black voters where they're tough to measure right now. But if you looked at the Harry Enton thing, which is what I woke up to this morning after 5 hours of sleep after my cross ocean flight. was the first thing I saw on X, was Harry Enton analyzing this USA Today poll. And he's like, if you look at the crosstabs, among 50 years and older black voters, like it's basically the same. Like Biden is, he's a little bit soft, but you know, if you assume the kind of the undecideds break late, like he'll end up basically where he was in 2020. So this is why if you're like, oh, the polls are wrong, it's like, well, no, I mean, the polls are catching something, which is that under 50 younger black voters are, it's a catastrophic decline. I mean, Biden is still up by like 30, right? So he's still winning, but he won them by 80 in 2020. And now he's only winning by 30. That's pretty significant. Is it hard to get a home, right? Is it interest rates are brutal on cars and houses? Is it, something about the social media, the media intake? Is it feeling let down by Democrats, as A.B. brought up, that they've overpromised and underdelivered? Is it inflation is hitting them a little bit harder? Is it that older black voters have the gray hair and the experience to have seen a fucking charlatan like Donald Trump before? I don't like. Is it a combination of all those things? Is it something else that I'm missing? Is it Gaza? That is still unclear, and more work needs to be done on this by Democrats and outside groups to analyze this. But like that's just where we're at. Like it's relatively younger. I mean, 50. No offense, JVL. 50 is not exactly a spring chicken, but it's relatively younger Democrats. Black Democrats that Biden is struggling with.
Before we get off of that poll, I'm super down. I think the news is terrible, so I'm scraping for ponies. Okay, but there's two things from this USA Today Suffolk poll that we should note, which are heartening. Support for abortion with few restrictions is at 70% in both states, coming above the national average at 63%. And in both states, in Michigan, 64% of Michigan voters said the conviction will make them less likely to support Trump. In Pennsylvania, that number's 65%. That's pretty good news. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, underneath it, you can look and say these things should make sense. They should help, but I don't know, man.
So here's my pony on this. The other positive news potentially is the 13% when you talked about that undecided. And even I forget what you said, the Cornell West plus RFK Jr.
About 14%.
Yeah, so if you add all that up, that's about 27%. You got to assume that very few are going to Donald Trump. Right, like it is like it's very challenging if you're looking at 27% of people that are undecided right now and are voting for even more lefty third parties. Traditionally, Trump's already at a high water mark among black voters, so there's room to grow there if you're Joe Biden, right? Like that is room to grow. And so if you're looking at the ballot number right now, it has him tied or down 1 or up 1 or down 2 or whatever in various states and national, and you assume he can shore up over the course of the next 5 months the 13% undecided black voters and some percentage of the Cornell West and RFK voters, that's some room to grow. So that's my positive spin for it.
If he gets all of those voters, that gets him to 84%. That's just not good enough. And the other thing is that,
well, but it's more than where he's at now.
Sure.
Like, so if you accept that he's tied, or accept that if you can do that, that could be a net +1 point or something.
But black turnout is really important to Democratic candidates.
That's true.
And if Biden's share of the pie of African American votes is shrinking, and the size of the pie is also shrinking, I just think that's not great. All right. Today, this podcast is supported by IPVanish VPN. If you care about the security of your online activity, the easiest way to protect yourself is with IPVanish. Rated excellent on Trustpilot, IPVanish provides an encrypted connection for all of your internet traffic, helping to prevent websites, Wi-Fi providers, and hackers from intercepting your data. Help keep your financial details, personal information, and online activity safe from threats with IPVanish. Get started with this limited time offer and save 83% on our 2-year subscription. Visit ipvanish.com/thenextlevel. That's ipvanish.com/thenextlevel. So great news that we had some other polls as well. And Selzer has her.
You got some good ones for me? All right, come on,
great
JVL.
Ones. Some really, really great ones.
Okay.
Joe Biden's at 32% in Iowa.
Yeah.
That's 32. 32.
Tim's taking this one, not me.
Was that like 32% of what?
Voters.
Yeah.
All voters in Iowa?
Yeah, of all voters.
The whole state? Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know, man. Luckily one of the good gifts that the Lord gave me was a fear of needles, so I never had any danger of, getting into that H-bomb, really getting down. But at 30,
You're never going to chase the dragon.
I was never going to chase the dragon, but if anything's going to make me chase the dragon, it might be Ann Selzer, because my God, I mean, it is a flashback to 2016 when, oh man, I wish I was dorky enough to actually have this by memory, but she had that poll that came out, the Iowa poll of the week before the election, where Trump was winning by I think 8 or 12. Forget what it was. Something significant in Iowa that presaged the fact that there was some late breaking to him, because Iowa back in 2016 was supposedly a swing state. And to be down by 18 in Iowa obviously does not matter to Iowa. But it is significant when you think about it, what it might portend for the upper Midwest, which has some other important states. And we have a lot of data out of Wisconsin. Biden's numbers are surprisingly strong in Wisconsin, so we'll keep that as our pony. But Ann Selzer's a really good pollster. Joe Biden being at 32% in Iowa is pretty depressing.
It's not great. It's not great. A.B.
I have to focus on the swing states that matter and the 6% of us that are going to decide this election in 6 states. And so we know that your vote doesn't matter, JVL's, mine doesn't. We're in Maryland, Louisiana, and New Jersey. And so I'm not going to focus on a red state like Iowa and how Trump is dominating there. I'm depressed enough. He can just win it by 38 points. That's fine. I'm just going to worry. I have to worry about those 6 states and get my hopes up that Mark Robinson tips new North Carolina our way in some freak fluke miracle. That's where I am.
Do you guys know what the unemployment rate is in Iowa?
Boy, it's probably like 85%. I mean, that's the only thing that would make sense.
It's 2.8%. There are only 47,000 unemployed people in the whole state.
2.8% of people in Iowa have jobs?
No, they're
the
unemployed.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, that seems pretty good.
It's okay.
What has happened? I just don't understand. Iowa was a swing state. I worked in Iowa. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, I had a few less wrinkles, but it was a competitive state.
Guys, we can't do this. Come on. Obama
what is happening, though? Can you explain why this is happening,
Iowa
AB?
and Ohio. That was the before times. Why are we going into, why is it a swing state?
Well, but 32% of people, what I'm trying to do is match the lived reality, to use our progressive friends' terms, my lived experience in America and having spent quite a bit of time in Iowa, with the fact that the unemployment rate there is 2.8%. The fact that I visited Iowa last summer, it seemed pretty unchanged. It wasn't like it wasn't like crime. There weren't hordes of immigrants that have invaded the state.
Wasn't a hellscape. What about crime? The crime
it wasn't a
hellscape.
Very clean. Not a lot of crime. Most of my friends there are happy and healthy, and their families are good. Why is the incumbent president at 32% there? That doesn't make any frickin' sense.
Because 56% of the country believes we're in a recession.
Tim, I have a question. When you went to the airport to fly out to where'd you go? Mallorca? Did you go to Portugal?
I went to Lisbon and Cascais and Sintra and Barcelona.
So what is it like flying on an empty plane? Because I imagine nobody else could possibly afford to take. I mean, times are so tough, Tim.
I got to tell you, we didn't go through Iowa, but I do got to tell you, JVL. Tyler, my husband, I'm not big for like the club, the airport lounge culture.
Ooh,
I'm not into that. That's not me. Tyler is very into airport lounge culture. And so, he makes sure we're signed up and we have the card and whatever that gets us into the lounge. When I tell you in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of these swing states, that we went to 2 lounges where I could not find a chair. Could not find a chair. I could not sit. I could not find a place to sit. Not because, not because they don't have not because they don't have benches, because it's a third world country, but because every seat was filled by a middle American person that seemed to be going on a wonderful vacation. Our flight was packed with Americans going to Barcelona. I had several people, several Louisiana Tigers LSU Tigers fans on the flight that complimented my hat. It was not Coastal Elites. I dropped my daughter off while we flew through Charlotte. I dropped my daughter off with my in-laws. They took her to Myrtle Beach while we went to Europe. Great life, great in-laws. Love you guys. And they said that the desk person at the Myrtle Beach hotel that they go to, again, Myrtle Beach, it is coastal, but it's not exactly like the Hamptons that we're talking about here. The Myrtle Beach hotel check-in person said it was their busiest check-in day ever that they've ever had.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And yet here we are with only 1/3 of people in Iowa think that it's worth staying the course. Think that given that state of affairs, 2/3 of people in Iowa are like, you know what? Let's just roll the dice with autocracy. Let's just take our stupidest a celebrity.
Unemployment was 7% when Donald Trump left office. Like it isn't like, well, everything was fine when Trump was here. Right. I mean, it was like we had a fine first 3 years if you don't count any of the like tiki torch marches and stuff like that. Sure. But we did have this gigantic thing that encapsulated the entire final quarter of his presidency, which resulted in GDP contraction, sky high unemployment rates, and people losing huge chunks of their 401ks. I mean, it was very bad. Also, the largest explosion in violent crime since the 1970s. I mean, these things all happened while Donald Trump was president.
This is JVL not willing to accept that the American voter has decided to completely erase 2020, only judge Trump's first term on the first 3 years, see it fondly in the rearview mirror, completely eliminate COVID, and then Biden must be blamed for the COVID hangover. That's the new rule. And JVL just consistently refuses to accept this.
It's this weird thing.
Do you think that hotel in Myrtle Beach was busy in October of 2020? How do you think it was? Do you think that they were taking a lot of income in and the tourists look?
Yeah. So Tim, I mean, I don't follow college football. But in theory, if you were the head coach of LSU and you went deep into the National Football Playoffs, and people were really excited about it and thought it was great, and then you had 4 or 5 3-win seasons in a row, would the fans of LSU football say, yeah, I mean, look, sure, the last few years have been terrible, but look at that great couple of years we had before? Is that how that works? In America?
It doesn't tend to be how it works, no.
Or in America, do we say, what have you done for me lately? And nobody gets credit for those things they did before everything went bad.
Well, Donald Trump's done a lot of things for people lately, though. I mean, he's been convicted of several crimes. And, he's really, he's made a lot of people wealthy with his DWAC stock.
He has made himself wealthy with his DWAC stock on paper. All right, Tim, why don't you talk to us about our second sponsor?
Why don't I? Our second sponsor today is Rhone Apparel. The frustration of trying to keep up with ever-changing trends and confusion in the nuances of men's fashion is something men should not have to put up with. Men's closets were due for a radical reinvention, and lucky for us, Rhone stepped up to the challenge. Rhone's commuter collection is the most comfortable, breathable, and truly versatile set of products known to man. They have products for every occasion. We're talking about the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, and blazers. They look great as individual pieces and work seamlessly together. Rhone's signature 4-way stretch fabric is breathable, flexible, and works everywhere from your commute to work to the 19th hole. I wouldn't know about that, but it also works as a gay man traveling in Portugal, which is a much bigger endorsement than saying that it also works on the 19th hole. But I understand it works for both. It's time for unparalleled confidence without all the hassle. Rhone's commuter collection features wrinkle release technology and is 100% machine washable. Looking good is that easy. And they're treated with Gold Fusion anti-odor technology for more wears between washes. You'll be fresh and clean all day long. So long, lingering odors. I don't know what more of endorsement than you need than your favorite gay podcaster has worn these shirts at weddings in Europe, and he machine washed them because it's just that easy. The commuter collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to Rhone.com/thenextlevel and use promo code thenextlevel to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/thenextlevel and use code thenextlevel. It's time to find your corner office comfort.
That Rhone stuff is so good that I begged Sebastian to reach out to them and see if they'd send me some more of it for free, because I really, really like it. And I'll spend my own money on it if I have to. But, hey, Rhone people, your stuff is so good, I want more of it.
Yeah, look at that. That's a good ad.
So last Thursday, Donald Trump met with the Business Roundtable. Everybody talked about his big congressional thing, but the Business Roundtable, I think, has not gotten enough attention. Aaron Ross Sorkin talked about, so we had basically a split screen of how it went. The Wall Street Journal's account of how it went was talking about lowering the corporate tax rate. Aaron Ross Sorkin talked to a bunch of CEOs who were like, that dude is totally out to lunch. He has no idea where he is or what's going on. We then had
I've never sat down at a meeting with an important person where all they talked about was how mean people had been to them 4 years ago and how unfair things were and how everything was rigged. It was a very, very strange. It was not a typical, executive meetup.
Then he went and was speaking about what did he say? He was talking about how Joe Biden is having decline with all of his mentals, and but my doctor said that I'm totally together. What was my doctor's name? I forget. Robert Jackson. So
Ronnie Johnson, I think he said Ronnie Johnson.
So again, if Joe Biden had done this, it would have been wall-to-wall news for a week. Right? Front page of the New York Times. The top 5 stories on NewYorkTimes.com would have been about how Joe Biden talking about his memory. He can't even remember the name of his doctor, right? A.B., what's happening?
This is my point. Because the meeting with the Business Roundtable was, it was all hyped. They're all coming around. They need their seat at the power table with Trump, who's going to win. So he's going to come on in and get, the big round of applause, and they're all going to chum out together. And the quotes from Andrew Ross Sorkin was that he was remarkably meandering and could not keep a straight thought. Said the CEOs to Ross Sorkin, who said they walked out less predisposed to him. I think that's pretty consequential. And then, of course, he was talking at his event over the weekend about how, which is interesting, you guys, he turned 78 on Friday, and he tends to let his surrogates talk about age. He doesn't like to call Biden old. And so getting at his mental competence, I thought was interesting that he went there. He goes, he should take a cognitive test like I did, which I aced. And Dr. Ronnie Johnson at the White House gave, said I was, and he calls him by the wrong name. And it gets better because the guy who wrote the Apprentice in Wonderland book that's out this week was on MSNBC this morning, and he said that Trump has severe memory issues. So it was so bad that Newt Gingrich tweeted, criticism of President Trump at the BRT is partisan nonsense. I was there. One CEO wrote me, quote, general response was mainly positive given the disaster at the border, the current anti-business climate, no law and order in our cities, and the very dangerous geopolitical environment. That's like the best thing that Gingrich, in a panic to help Trump out, could get a CEO to say on background in an email without their name attached. So I'm sorry, this is, yes, it would be an 18-month story if it was Biden, but I think this is going to bear fruit.
Important to note, both the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the NASDAQ are near their historic highs, the historic highs which were achieved under Biden, and corporate profits are at record highs under Joe Biden. So what is this anti-business climate? What is... I don't understand. Tim, can you explain to me? Like, what do they think is going to get more better?
I have a
like
lot
Biden has been the most pro-business president ever, right? This is...
okay. I have a rant, but I'm going to give you the serious answer to that question first. The serious answer, because people a lot of times, dismissively, a lot of libs are like, oh, they just want their tax cuts. And they do. They would like for the Trump tax cuts to be extended. But the other thing you have to understand is that, like, all of these guys have expertise in one specific item of red tape that the government has that annoys them. And they think that, like, if they go to the Donald Trump BRT meeting, they can get whatever, the EPA to change the rule that's making it a little bit harder for them to do whatever and, risk the drinking water of some random lake somewhere, right? Like they all have one specific thing. Some of them are legitimate things. Some of them are totally illegitimate, right? But, like, they all think that they can do business on regulation cutting with Trump. That said, to your point, like, things are not, like, these guys are all crushing it. These guys are all crushing it. We are not going through a depression. We're not going through a recession. We are not, like, they don't, corporate profits are doing well. The stock market's at an all-time high.
Not well, Tim. They're doing better than they have ever done before. That's how corporate profits are doing.
Just be satisfied. Be happy. Let's not, whatever happened to not rocking the boat? Whatever happened to consistency? We want predictability in the business climate. Like, you want an insane madman who floated this week. He's like, we're going to get rid of the income tax and replace it with tariffs. Like, just entirely tariffs. Like, you don't think that's going to disrupt many of the businesses at this BRT roundtable meeting? Like, that's the thing I don't get. Why doesn't that break through with any of these guys? Because they just think that, like, oh, Trump didn't do that the first time, so he won't do it this time. Well, who the fuck knows what he's going to do this time? You're making a deal with a totally erratic person that you'd never make a deal with in your business life. You would never hire this person, to contract if you were one of these guys, because you can't trust him. And so, like, that's the thing that bugs me. And the other thing that bugs me, it just makes me wonder how stupid these people are. A.B., back to your point, which is that, like, some of these guys were, like, really surprised by how meandering he was, and it made them less favorable towards him. Like, I guess that's a good thing. On the other hand, it's like, does anybody watch Donald Trump talk? Like, do any of these people watch this fucking person talk? He's a lunatic. Like, he's a total lunatic every time he talks. Like, what do you mean you met him in private and you were surprised that he was meandering? Like, do you look at his bleats? Aren't you a CEO?
To Tim, in the Wall Street Journal account of this, the reporters there spoke to a number of the CEOs present who had said that they were surprised and dispirited that the choice had come down to Biden and Trump. They had hoped it would be somebody different, which, by the way, you have to have been living under a rock to have not known that it was going to be Biden versus Trump. I was telling people this in October of 2020, before the election, that the 2024 election would be Biden versus Trump, but also that they had hoped that the nominees might be Nikki Haley and Gina Raimondo. And I am sorry, these people are fucking idiots. Like, there is no meritocracy. Yeah. If there is a single CEO in America who thought that, actually, you know what, I think the Democratic nominee might be Gina Raimondo, then I just...
This reminds me of I was on a panel in Aspen where like, I had literally 6 questions from the Aspen people gathered that were all like, why can't we have a Democratic Party that's pro-business with somebody like Gina Raimondo? Why couldn't we? Literally 6 straight questions. One of my friends who doesn't like politics came up to me afterwards, and he just came to support me because he lives up there, and he was like, he's like, did the people not listen to each other's questions? I mean, like, these people are all just, they're delusional. They're in a bubble. And my answer every time was like, you live in a state which has Jared Polis as a governor and Joe Biden as the president. I mean, it's not like you're living in a place of socialism. I mean, it's not as if Jamal Bowman is the governor of Colorado. It's Jared Polis. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. One other rant on this, which is related. There's a Chris Christie guy who tweeted this, consultant. From the New Jersey whatever Ledger, and he's like, Biden is a terrible candidate, and he lists some things. He goes, inflation and high interest rates were on the list of problems that he lists. He's like, he's concerned about inflation and high interest rates. And I'm like,
so he wishes that the interest rates would be lower.
And inflation would be high. It's like I'm mad at the firemen for the fire
and
for trying to blow it out.
Why do they keep spraying water on that fire?
The thing is that we know that these guys already are looking at Trump's plans for new tariffs. They know they're inflationary and it would be a disaster. None of this is about that. It's about, I know they want the tax cut, but it's about what JVL talks about, that they know that they have to come around and kiss the ring, because if they don't, there will be consequences in the event Trump wins. And then in the event that Biden is reelected, there will be none.
So this is, I just wrote about this today, and this is the deepest point of this. And it is an absolute weak spot in the armor of liberal democracy, which is that to the extent that our market is free, and it's not really a free market, but it's basically a free market. When you have somebody whose campaign promise is liberal democracy, then you don't have to be afraid of them. Right? I mean, Elon Musk can say whatever the hell he wants about Joe Biden and not worry about the federal government recrafting the EV subsidy so that Tesla vehicles don't qualify for it. Right? Or going through and rewriting the government's contract with Starlink to put them with Blue Origin because Jeff Bezos is nicer to him. That's not a thing that Joe Biden does, and a thing which Joe Biden should do. We don't want that. But once you have an illiberal person on the menu, that's not the case. And so if you are Jamie Dimon, you know that if you sign on with Trump, Joe Biden won't be mad at you or won't do anything to you in the event that Biden wins. But if you side with Biden and Trump wins, that's a problem for you. And this is a real conundrum. This is it's the old Lenin thing about capitalists selling you the rope.
Can I do one name check on this?
Yeah.
Just since you mentioned this.
Tim
Cook attended this.
Hey,
Fuck
Tim.
this guy. Fuck Tim Cook. Like, this guy allowed Donald Trump to lie. Like, this guy did PR service for Donald Trump.
Oh yeah. Do you remember the Apple, the Foxconn plant that Tim Cook was at, which everybody knew was never going to get fucking built, and which was never built? Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yes, and Trump's putting out press releases and tweets, and he's like, thanks to Trump, Apple is bringing their production back from China. They used to do it in China, and now they're going to do it in America, and they're breaking ground, and this is going to be all these new jobs. And they didn't do any of that. It was all bullshit. And Tim Cook just let a wannabe authoritarian use him.
He went to the groundbreaking.
Yeah.
He was at the groundbreaking for the photo op.
And now here he is back here again after the attempted coup. It's like, how much more money does Apple need? Like, Apple is doing fine. Apple is one of the big, most profitable companies in history. And Tim Cook does this good guy shtick. It's like, why? You don't have to do this. You don't have to go shake Donald Trump's hand. Maybe if you argue that after the election, whatever, I still would be against it. But you don't go there. You don't challenge him on anything. You just kind of go, yes, sir, Mr. Trump, moron autocrat TV host. Yes, sir, I'm the CEO of... Screw you, Tim Cook. You've broken me.
Our last sponsor today is Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for clean eating, delivering pre-portioned and prepped quality whole foods with limited processed ingredients. If the beginning of summer has you feeling farmers market vibes, look no further than Green Chef, the first certified organic meal kit company. Bring the flavors of the farmers market to you with fresh seasonal organic produce in every box, plus premium proteins like organic eggs, sustainably sourced seafood, and antibiotic and hormone-free chicken. All these get delivered right to your door, plus you don't have to guess what to make with your farm fresh items. With Green Chef's easy-to-follow recipes and pre-measured and prepped ingredients, you'll be serving up restaurant-worthy meals in no time. You can find clean meals to suit your lifestyle with preferences like Mediterranean, plant-based, gluten-free, protein-packed, keto, calorie-smart, and gut health, and save time in the kitchen with premium ingredients that come already prepped for you. Green Chef even has a dedicated preference for gut and brain health with science-backed recipes that feature ingredients like fiber, antioxidants, and omega-3 fatty acids. And did you know Green Chef is owned by another one of our sponsors, HelloFresh, so now you can choose between the two and have a wider array of meal plans to choose from. The instructions are an underrated part of the Green Chef and HelloFresh value proposition, because they are like the food versions of Lego. They're idiot proof. Anybody can look at the instructions and figure out how to make this stuff. And the fact that the packaging is basically pre-measured, so you don't even need to get out your measuring cup to figure out, well, how much cumin do I put in? It's just great. It's very easy,
More cumin.
especially if you view meals as something to be gotten through, something to be endured. This stuff is good for you. It's really helpful. Especially now that we're in summertime with our children home full time. Go to greenchef.com/nextlevel50 and use code nextlevel50 to get 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. That's 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months when you go to greenchef.com/nextlevel50. Start enjoying the #1 meal kit for eating well today. Tim, you got some Caitlin Clark content for us?
I do. I'm interested what you guys think about this. It's been very frustrating for me to watch the internet discussion of the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, because I think it's like a microcosm of what is wrong with our society and what's broken about our society right now, because you have these grifters. The worst ones are obviously the MAGA ones that, like, every time Caitlin Clark is fouled now, or every time like some black WNBA player criticizes her, or like takes a little dig at her, it's literally they send out the video and it's like, WNBA black lesbians hate white people. Like, that was literally a Clay Travis tweet. Like, they hate white people. They want Caitlin Clark out of the league. This is reverse racism against white people. She didn't make the Olympic team because it's reverse racism against white people. Now, nobody mentions that the person probably she would have replaced is Diana Taurasi, who also white. But anyway, Diana Taurasi made the team. It will be like her 7th Olympics. Unclear why the racist WNBA does not have the same discrimination against Diana Taurasi. Maybe it's an Italian thing, and maybe Clark, Italian is a little different than Clark's heritage. I'm not sure. And then the other side of the coin is true. Like, there are also, like, you hear among some of the wokester commentators now online doing the whole like, oh, Caitlin Clark only gets attention because she's white, and everybody loves Caitlin Clark because she's white, and they don't love Angel Reese, or they don't love Flau'jae Johnson, or the South Carolina players, like, because they're black, and like Angel Reese is criticized because she's black, and it's just like, all of this is nothing. Like, this is all a tale as old as time. This is all what sports people always said they wanted.
Magic.
This is the Pistons. This is the bad boy Pistons. Like, Angel Reese is just the bad boy Pistons. Like, for anybody who's old enough to remember, Bill Laimbeer, white. Like, Angel Reese is just kind of the bad cop. She likes playing that role. She likes being the enforcer. She likes trash talking. John McEnroe was white. He liked playing the bad boy. He liked trash talking. Like, everybody is making this about nothing, and Caitlin Clark, who's just so fun to watch and so amazing and just says the right thing every time, is like thrust into the middle of this stupid fucking culture war that's only being used to farm engagement clicks from fucking grifters. And like, it takes all the joy out of all this. Like, I want a little, like, there was this moment where like the women's basketball emergence was like just this little bit of joy that was a break from the darkness that we get enveloped with. You could just want, the competition, just how beautiful Caitlin's game is, and here we are, and they've sucked it all. They take it all away from us, JVL. These fucking grifters take away all of our joy. So that was just my topic I wanted to throw out there for discussion here on the dark side, because it's brought me some darkness.
A.B.
So, it's not just the grifters, right? It's fueled
Correct.
by other people in the industry, like the guy who called her a white bitch, the sports commentator.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to say, I understand that there are black players who say, we were here making the WNBA great before she was filling stadiums, before she was a hot commodity. And I respect that, and they're amazing players, and they are making the WNBA what it is. But I want to say on a positive note, as a role model, because we have none left except for Dolly Parton and Taylor Swift. And I'm seriously telling you that, like, that's it for the entire planet. I can't locate a male one right now. Just those two women.
You can't locate a male role model?
The idea that every single time she is confronted by this nastiness, she says she takes the high road, is so amazing to me. Doesn't make the Olympic team. Oh, I can't. It's great. I don't want to be on it. I'm just going to be striving, working my game more for next year. She gets, the flagrant foul that everyone is like trying to make a controversy out of. She says it's a physical game. Now she says about this thing with Angel Reese over the weekend, she says everybody loves great matchups. I just love her attitude, and I love the fact that she is never going to be crushed by everything you just described, by the grifters, by the industry, by the people who want to make it a race war. I just love the fact that she is a Zen master, stays on the high road, and is leading with her example of just like, it's up to us the way we take things, and the way that she's a great leader, and I just think it is a light in all the darkness. I think it's awesome.
I mean, the NBA has always, for starters, people have to understand the heritage of the NBA. It really started as like a barnstorming kind of like carnival sideshow, right? And so its roots are in showmanship and almost like professional wrestling, going all the way back to David Stern and the frozen envelope, right? Whereby Patrick Ewing miraculously went to the New York Knicks, even though they didn't really have a chance. It has always fed the professional wrestling version. There's always been faces and heels in the NBA, and this is what
you can
made
see the
game
players
so
better
popular.
than football and baseball and hockey.
Right,
too,
you can see they don't
good.
have any masks on.
Yeah.
Right, you're very, very close to them, and a single player can impact the game in basketball in ways that simply are not possible in
except
football
for quarterbacks,
and baseball.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, but even that, like, a quarterback has to have a team around him. I mean,
Right.
people should think about this for baseball. The Los Angeles Angels had the two greatest players of the last 50 years on the team together, Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, for like 4 years, and couldn't make the playoffs once. Right? I mean, this is it's just how different it is. And so there's always been this, and like race has always been part of it in basketball. That's what the Bird versus Magic really was, a like white people and black people on opposite sides. And then the same thing with Jordan when Jordan came. And then the NBA embraced the soap opera stuff once players just started forming their own super teams, and
Right.
like when LeBron decided like he was going to kick off the era of super teams by moving to taking his talents to South Beach and stuff. And so the WNBA is leaning into that stuff, and you can tell that the league itself is leaning into it because ESPN is leaning into it. And so underneath running the ticker on ESPN yesterday while I'm trying to watch the College Baseball World Series, it's an endless series of responses about like fouls in women's basketball games because they really want to hype the drama. And like, I don't know if that helps them sell tickets, then I'm kind of into it. Like that's okay, right? I mean,
guess,
of course,
yeah,
I would
but
say that
can't
because I
we-
like WWE, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that fine?
but isn't that like, can't we have Angel and Caitlyn where Caitlyn plays the face and Angel plays the heel, and like she's got attitude and she's doing the ring press and and Caitlyn's doing the farm girl shtick? Like, can't we do that without it being like, oh, everybody hates white people or everybody hates black people? Like, is there not a way for ESPN to do a rivalry between a black person and a white person without making it an attempt to get into a race war? Like, maybe not. Maybe that's not. Maybe that. Maybe
I don't know.
I'm
I'm just
asking too
thinking
much.
of the history of professional wrestling on this, and the answer is The answer is no, not really.
No, not really. Great.
You know, we did a friend with our show with Josie Reisman, who had done a book about Vince McMahon, and we talked about how there was this seminal moment in American race relations where professional wrestling promoters thought that they could book black wrestlers as villains, because prior to that they had always been concerned that if they had a black villain, then especially in the Southern promotions, like it would incite actual race riots with the white customers. So I don't know. I wish that people wouldn't take it so seriously. I wish that it could be it's all in good fun.
Yeah.
The like people could
rivalry.
just say that, look, Caitlin Clark is Hulk Hogan and Angel Reese gets to be the Iron Sheik and everybody loves it, rather than like apolitical actors kind of trying to clout chase on Twitter by talking about race wars. That's all.
We can't have that, though.
No, we make
don't get
everything
nice things.
binary now.
You don't
There's
get
no
nice
good fun.
things.
Well,
All right, guys, that was
It's been
a pretty
uplifting.
dark show. AB, do you think we did it?
Oh yeah, we did it.
Yeah. All right,
I feel broken.
guys, we'll see it.
I feel
see you
broken.
next
And you should tell JVL that we are not. I joined today because we're not doing that
Yeah.
the next level Wednesday. With
Right,
Sarah,
but
because we
Tim
have a
broke
next level
down-
Friday
yeah.
in Denver.
I don't know. I mean, if any of us are even still alive, because we decide to take the hemlock.
Keep an eye on the feed.